Hey, my name is Steve Hinton, and I serve as a pastor and author.
And I'm your co-host, Matthias. I serve as a personal trainer and a volunteer at my local church.
We want to welcome you to The Man Identity, a podcast that is dedicated to calling up young men into purposeful manhood, which is ultimately found in Jesus Christ and being made in the image of God.
In a culture that is often deliberately set against young men, we're here to intentionally build hope, clarity, and strength into the hearts of these men who are searching for purpose. Together, we will face tough issues head on, throw down some weekly challenges, and have some fun along the way.
Because solid manhood is not automatic, but rather it's a choice. We're here to walk alongside you and encourage you to live out your authentic identity in being made in the image of God for a purpose larger than you have ever imagined.
So join us now for another episode of The Man Identity.
Well, hey, Matthias, Merry Christmas, or as our friends in the UK say, Happy Christmas.
Do they really say Happy Christmas?
They do.
I did not know
They do.
that.
I don't know what the tradition is. I don't know why it goes back, but I'm thinking about Max in our first episode and Justin Brierly and maybe a couple of other guys who are listening. But happy Christmas to you. Happy Christmas to the Man Identity audience out there. We want you to know that we're thankful that you've been part of this journey as we're coming to the halftime of our first season. But hey, Merry Christmas. Happy Christmas, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you for coming back to the show. Merry Christmas. Happy Christmas for all my people in the UK, I suppose. Well, we're excited to continue this podcast. We just kind of wanted to take this time to really kind of reflect on the first half of this, I guess, season, maybe you could call it, that we've done, with this podcast. And we're excited where this is going. So we just kind of wanted to recap and then maybe kind of tell you guys where we kind of plan on taking this. Mm-hmm. So, Steve, why don't we do a little recap about this season? Maybe give me some of your best moments, highlights.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, to begin with, it's been fun, and I think it's been helpful to a number of people. Again, just kind of looking at the history that this is something that we didn't just sit around one day. Hey, what do you want to do? But a lot of this came out of, for me, in the neighborhood of 10 years of really praying about this, and really 12 when I go all the way back to the live webcast that a buddy and I did 12 years ago, trying to answer the questions that people have. But I've been praying about this for a long time, and just the providence of pieces coming together and then connecting with you, and the affirmation and the trip to the UK with Markman for Christ and meeting Max and some other guys there. But you know what, Matthias, our first episode, I think it landed the way I wanted it to land, with just the lack of expertise that I have, but we were able to get some guys into it, Max and then Wolfgang from Germany, and the reality that there's a need. So many young men following Andrew Tate because they don't know. They just know they've been beat up, and here's a guy that's
a
saying,
loud voice
hey,
for him. Yeah.
Yes, and that's what we want. We want you men to know is that we believe in you. Created in God's image. You've been given identity. We had some fun episodes. I know that you really liked the car show, and I did too. I liked, and this is may just me personally, but I liked the four older guys in classic rock.
Yeah.
Matthias, you're right. They did poke me a lot. But I love the way Jim Toon gave some encouragement. It's all about finding a good woman, finding God, a good woman, and a good purpose. And I thought, oh my goodness, you could write a song about it.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. I think would be like my life's mantra: find a good woman, which I found, find God and find purpose. I think those are all the three big things that fulfill a man there.
Yeah. We had some good content, the experts on how to trust the Bible, and I really want to encourage guys to go back and listen to those episodes, because there really are solid evidences. Thinking about evidences, the episode we had with Justin Brierly, that was kind of funny. I was bummed because I really messed the technology up on that. I didn't have the right mic turned on, and I was nervous because of a lot of things going on that day. So go back to that episode, not for me, but for the content that Justin Brierly from the UK had, his podcast that he's got out, and the surprising rebirth in God. Matthias, I think if I can just choose one episode, I would say it would be with Dr. Brian Holbert, a teachable man. And the interesting thing for me personally, yeah, I did that episode and I thought, there are probably a couple areas in my life where I need to take some advice from some older guys myself with my ministry and things like that. But if I could just recommend one episode to our listeners, I would say go back and listen to that one and
Yeah.
just ask yourself, am I really a teachable man? But, when it's all said and done, Matthias, wow, we've got in the neighborhood of 450 downloads. Um, I don't know how many downloads or subscriptions we have on YouTube. You're the expert there. But looking at the reality that we are 15, 16 episodes into this and we already have this much interest, to me,
Yeah.
that's an encouragement. I hope it is to you, and I
Yeah.
hope it is to our audience as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I just reflect, and I agree with you. That episode with Dr. Brian, I can't pronounce his last name. I don't want to butcher it.
Yeah, Dr. Brian.
Yeah, Dr. Brian. There we go. We can call him Dr. Brian. That was actually, yeah, that's definitely in my top 3 for the most that me personally received out of it. Not saying that any of the other episodes we've done is, you can't get anything out of them, but for me personally, that was one of my top 3 ones. So yeah, I really did enjoy that interview. Go back and make sure you watch that if you haven't already. Yeah, it's been a real learning experience. I've made content over the years. I made content.
You made some good content.
I made content. I made fitness content like years ago, and I've made like gaming content. I made Christian content. So it's a whole different world doing like conversational podcast based content. So I'm glad that I've had the skills to use for like the editing and like the things like that. But nothing really prepares you for like trying to learn how to have these like conversations flow naturally and to like try to really make sure we produce value and talk and give good talking points and like ultimately just provide value for the listener. So it's just been a learning process that, and then even though I'm young, I still goofed up with the technology too. The very first episode we did, I had the noise gate up just a little too high, so it's like randomly you'll hear little cuts in and out of certain words because the noise just wasn't loud enough for the mic to say, "Hey, let's open up, pick up the noise." So there's just like things like that where I goofed up too on the sound, and it's been a nice learning experience. And I think I can tie that back into, and I know we've talked about this in some episodes, is people like let fear prevent them from doing things and really jumping out there and jumping out in faith and trying something and trying to find purpose in something because they're too afraid they're going to look stupid or dumb or they're not going to do it right. Whereas like I said, I remember, I think I said in that exact episode, we're not going to start this podcast and be Joe Rogan in the first episode, have that, get all these viewers and everything. But it's been a nice learning experience because, we've talked about just so many things over these episodes, and I've taken so much from them and your conversations you've had. I've really enjoyed this experience so far.
Well, even though we haven't gotten it right, and I'm learning, I want our audience to know that the fact that we care about the technology is illustrative that we care about this. I've invested money in StreamYard and the new mic and other pieces because we really do want to do a quality job. We really do want to encourage some men. Matthias, in addition to Dr. Brian, what were some highlights for you for the season?
I would have to say
the first half of the season.
I would have to say the most impactful for me personally, my favorite one, I think it was the second episode you actually did with Steve Spicer.
Yes.
So
two,
that was about, he taught, he's the, I can't remember his exact title or position with Mark Menn.
He is the co-founder and president of Mark Men for Christ.
Yeah, he's the co-founder and president. And if you see my hat, I wear it almost every episode. It's the Mark Men for Christ hat. I went to my first P1, which was one of the challenge that you gave in that video. So, and that was there's like, I don't know the right words to describe the experience, but it was a great experience. It was really good. It's very healing. And I recommend, if you're a Christian man, make sure you look into that, sign up for one.
Yeah.
So I would say that was definitely the most impactful episode for me personally, just because I connected with Steve on just an emotional level with some of the, not necessarily the exact things that he went through, but kind of the same feelings that he had gone through, and then talking about the 5 things.
Yeah, five wounds.
Yeah, the 5 wounds that men deal with, and then going to the Mark Men and really diving into those was a really good thing. So I would say that was probably my favorite episode, just because it was the most impactful for me in my life personally.
Mm-hmm. Well, you touched on something listening to Steve Spicer's story, and one of the challenges that I've given, especially in episode number 4, but in different ones in different ways, this idea of being around older men. Purposefully, because when you go back generations and hundreds of years, young men were with old men. They would go hunting with them, they would go working with them, they would do life together, and that's how manhood rubbed off, by
Hmm.
being with older men. So part of the challenge is to listen to the stories
Hmm.
of older men. Put yourself in position. Find yourself a good church where they believe the Bible, they love Jesus, and here we are again. I'm going to advertise again. If you are on the northwest side of Houston, Cypress Crossings Christian Church, where I preach and where you serve, but finding some places where you can be with older men and you can learn from their life lessons.
Yes.
There's a huge benefit in that.
Absolutely. And I think the responsibilities on both parties, and I think this is exactly why we're doing this. The responsibility is not only on the young men to seek wisdom, to seek advice, to seek counsel, but
Mhm.
also on the older men to go, how can I connect
Yeah.
with this younger generation? Not just go, oh, they need to come to me, they need to come to me. No, it's let's go make disciples of these men. Let's go teach them and guide them in life. And so I think that's exactly what we're doing here, is we're trying to, and I think this is just not just this generation, but I think it's very pronounced in this generation, just from the people like millennials, because I'm like, as a millennial, like right in the middle of,
Mm.
I remember before smartphones, I remember before everybody's on
Yeah.
their phones in general, before the internet, and then I kind of grew up seeing all of that develop, and so I'm still in that, but I remember a life before all that.
Yeah.
So, and I think where I'm getting with this is that the divide, I think, is so much greater here between the older generation and the younger, because of that technological divide that I think the older generations don't necessarily understand, because internet changes youth's culture so fast
It does. It does.
that people, I think those generations are so much more divided. And I think that's why it's good we have this dynamic, because I can kind of relate and see what the younger people are looking for, what they're after, what they're needing, and you have a lot of wisdom to give. And so I love these conversations, because that's their ultimate goal, is just to reach these young men where they're at and say, hey, we see these things are important to you. We see these things are affecting you day to day. We want to be a godly a voice in this.
Mhm.
So I love what we're doing.
And I remember one of the people who did reach out and compliment our show, and they touched on the fact that because you and I are unpacking some of the discussions we have, we're able to touch on some of the questions. In other words, someone's listening to our podcast and they're listening to my conversation with a guest or whoever, and they have questions. And when you and I get on and unpack those discussions, we actually address some of those questions.
Yeah.
Some of the things that people are feeling and thinking and things of that nature. And I love our format. I like what we're doing. To look at the future, Matthias, what are some other suggestions that we've gotten that we want to implement in mid-January?
Yeah. So a good friend at the church, Marshall Showen, he was the one who did the episode, the car episode. The car
Man.
show. Yeah, the car man episode. Yeah. So he was the guest in that episode. We were talking at church just the other day, and I was like, hey, because he's been listening to every episode, catching up on his drive to work and his drive home from work. And I was like, hey, give us feedback. What can we do to make this better? And I asked him, do you enjoy the format? Is me and Steve kind of breaking down the interview that he did helpful, or is it providing value? Because that was something I struggle with this with when we're trying to figure out this formula for how we want this to look. Is that even providing anything? Am I even providing anything in this? And we asked people, yeah, and Marshall even confirmed that. He said yes. He's like, I think it's actually very beneficial that y'all do that, and I enjoy listening to that segment of the podcast. So that was an encouragement. But on top of that, Marshall really brought up the idea that, and it seems like it's an obvious in hindsight, but it's like, and it's not that we aren't touching on very important things for people to hear, because like I said, I've gotten a lot out of all of the interviews you've done. But he pointed out that maybe the young men of this generation are caring about a specific topic, specific things, and to maybe have conversation based on those topics. And I know that me and you talked a little bit about those. You want to bring it, you want to tell the viewers about what those might be?
Well, a couple things that Marshall said that you relayed to me. One was just the affordability,
Mhm.
and I think we can definitely give some lessons on that, and that there are biblical principles to that as well. Now, there is a difference in our economically what's going on in our culture today, and when I was 22, 25. So how do we live when things are more expensive? Affordability. What is my responsibility as a man, whether or
Mhm.
not the economy is good or bad, and how do I make things work? Um, we had an episode on becoming the man you need to be
Yeah.
before you find the lady that you want to marry.
Right.
And apparently, that subject of finding a bride, finding a wife, dating, apparently that's a subject that we're going to need to come back to. And then also dealing with issues like political correctness, and I think that does tie in. I think Marshall was right there that you have a lot of men today, young men, who have opinions or have questions, or maybe they have questions and they get shot down
Yeah.
for simply
Yeah.
asking the questions.
And I think maybe the overarching theme with the PC, the political correctness stuff, is not even maybe just the PC aspect of it, but the censorship,
Mm,
the quiet down. You can't say what you want. You can't say things. You can't say that. You can't say that. Well, it's like the more somebody gets told they're bad, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't say this, you can't say that, the more people are going to rebel against something like that, which I believe we're seeing right now. And I mean, I think censorship is horrible. I think America is based on free speech.
mhm.
But I'm not going to get on a soapbox right now about that. But the point of that to say is that that is a big topic as well. It's just that's the topic of censorship. Just to kind of, I guess, hone in on what even that's mostly about, the political correctness aspect of it.
And there's a biblical principle there that says that we are to speak the truth in love. So there's a
Mhm.
challenge to speak truth, but then not to be like I enjoy saying, don't be a jerk for Jesus.
Yeah.
How am I going to put myself out there, but doing it in a respectful and loving manner? And there are other issues that are political, social, and I think we're going to do those. And part of what I want to do now is to again put the request out there, men, if and we've got a few ladies that are listening too as well, and I'm glad for that. Send us an email, the manidentity at gmail.com. Is that the right address
That is,
there,
yes, sir.
Matthias? Yes, send us an email, because we want to hear what can encourage you more. There's a tension here that part of what I want to do is to give some information in the future that well, let me put it this way. Sometimes, guys, you don't know what you need to know.
Right.
And looking back at my life and looking back at your life, Matthias, and the lives of men who are gone before us, there are some things that are just void in our culture today. And we want to be able to speak into those truths to find the balance between what is the felt need that
Mhm.
that you guys are having, because we want to address that. And then what is a deeper need that, if you will take this and implement this, this is gonna take care of a lot of these other issues that are
Yeah.
on the surface. So the plan is to, take a halftime over Christmas, first couple of weeks in January, and to pick up again with the man identity and carry that through the fall. I think that's how podcast seasons go.
I was
We're,
gonna
we're
say
still
I'm not sure. I just watch YouTube content. If it's a podcast, it's a podcast. But yeah, but I mean, when we upload it, it gives us the option to put a season and a number. So it's like, let's do it that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, so ultimately, I think what you were saying is if you're listening, send us an email at themanidentity at gmail.com. Give us top if you're I would say if you're 30 and under, send us a topic that is a huge issue, or a huge
Something you wrestle with on a
something you
regular
wrestle
basis.
with, or a topic of conversation that is prevalent amongst men 30 and under. And if you're over and you still know maybe, hey, this is something that I know that they're struggling with, and they could use guidance and counsel on, send us a list of things that maybe you'd like to hear us talk on or touch on. So I think that's ultimately kind of where we're headed. We want to talk about things that really do matter to young men, but also implement a biblical worldview into that.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
And I've noted it before. I realize we've got a few ladies that are listening as well. And I think that's important because, ladies, you want to find the right guy. You want to know what you're looking for, but also sometimes guys don't know that they're being bombarded by the left and the right, and they want to get married, but they feel like they're tripping over themselves all the time. All that to say, ladies, if you have some questions that you would like us to address as well, feel free to do that. We always have a challenge, and this is I don't know. This is kind of a just a maybe more of a tradition for me, Matthias. I don't know where this started in my household as a kid, but on Christmas morning, before we tear into the presents, we read Matthew chapter 1 and 2, and Luke chapter 1 and 2, the Christmas nativity narratives. And guys, you may be in a household where you've got to maneuver around the families, or you may be in your own household. I would just challenge you here in a few days for Christmas morning, before you dive into whatever Christmas festivities you might have, to just read the narratives, Matthew chapters 1 and 2, and Luke chapter 1 and 2.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good challenge. We actually do that at my grandma's house as well. So
I like that. I like
yeah,
that.
so that was good. Do you have normally you have two challenges? You have another one for the viewers today, or just that one?
I think that's it. Again, send us your information. A lot of times people will send in something when they're hacked off. Um, and if you want to send that in, that's fine too.
Yeah, maybe we can make some
But
content out of it.
yeah, but send us in your questions, either to the manidentity@gmail.com, or you can go to my blog, kingdomology.com. There's a contact page there. Also, there's a link on my blog to the book that I wrote, 2018, entitled Confessions: Finding Hope Through One Pastor's Doubt. And actually, if you don't have a Christmas present for a young man yet in your life, that might be something for you to get right there.
There you go.
Because one of the main target audiences of that book was young men, and how can I encourage them, looking at some of the struggles that we have, and the fact that there is light at the end of the tunnel. So there you are. Happy Christmas.
Happy Christmas. Merry Christmas. And that was your book, Confessions: Finding Hope Through One Pastor's Doubt. Is that what you said it was titled?
That's what it is.
Yes. So I think I told you, quick note, viewer, I actually read your book. I think when I first started going to the church there, and at C4, and it was actually very encouraging to me. So yes, if you're a young man, get the book. It'll definitely help you out. There's a nice little, I like that you have a practical kind of step in there of that kind of letter. I don't know. You remember, what I'm talking about?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So I like that.
Yeah.
I like this.
Yes.
You're very consistent. You like to give practical, kind of challenges for people to do. So, but yeah, I just wanted to encourage y'all to make sure to get his book. It is really good. It's actually very good. So, all
Matthias,
right.
thank you. This has been a good first half of season 1, and we're getting better. And I'm looking forward to what God's going to help us do for the rest of the season, coming here in mid-January.
Yes, sir. Me too. I'm excited for it. All right, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in to this episode of The Man Identity. We'll see you in a few weeks. Have a good, happy Christmas, Merry Christmas, wherever you're at, whatever it's called. Enjoy.
Happy Christmas, and be strong.
Be strong.